One of the defining developments of the early Roman Empire was the steady expansion of imperial power. From the very beginning, this process unfolded gradually rather than abruptly. Augustus, the first emperor, wielded immense authority, but he was careful to disguise it. He did not proclaim himself an absolute ruler, nor did he openly dismantle the old republican institutions. Instead, he governed indirectly. He influenced the Senate's decisions, guided the actions of elected magistrates, ruled the provinces through appointed governors, and allowed local communities to manage their own daily affairs. Outside the military, the traditional structures of the republic appeared to remain intact, even though real power increasingly rested in imperial hands. Over time, however, later emperors grew less restrained. Many no longer felt bound by Republic-era conventions or interested in cooperation with the Senate and provincial officials. Some simply preferred to rule directly. Yet personal ambition alone does not fully explain this shift. A major driver of imperial authority was pressure from below, not just dominance from above. As the empire matured, local communities and individuals increasingly petitioned the emperor directly, bypassing governors and even the Senate. They did so because the emperor alone possessed the authority, financial resources, and military power to resolve problems beyond the capacity of local governments. Disputes over land, taxation, legal privilege, and public works increasingly landed on the emperor's desk. This pattern, known as petition-and-response, fundamentally reshaped Roman governance. To manage the growing flood of petitions, emperors expanded the machinery of government. They hired more clerks and secretaries in Rome, created new offices to manage correspondence and records, and dispatched imperial officials into the provinces. By the early 2nd century CE, these officials increasingly took over responsibilities once handled by governors or city councils. Appointed directly by the emperor, removable at his discretion, and expected to carry out imperial policy rather than local custom, they formed the foundations of a permanent imperial bureaucracy. Gradually, this new administrative system displaced the older republican framework. For more than a century, this evolving imperial structure produced relative stability, yet beneath the surface lay a fatal weakness: the political power of the army. In theory, emperors were chosen through legitimate political processes. In reality, their rule depended almost entirely on military support. An emperor who lost the army's loyalty could not govern. If different legions supported different candidates, the result was civil war. This flaw became apparent early, most notably during the year of the 4 emperors in 69 CE, but it grew far more destructive over time. After 180 CE, the empire entered what historians call the crisis of the 3rd century, lasting until 284 CE. This period unfolded in 2 stages. From 180 to 235 CE, instability increased as emperors struggled to command the army's loyalty. Assassinations became commonplace, discipline eroded, and civil wars broke out with increasing frequency. Soldiers recognized their own political power and used it recklessly. From 235 to 284 CE, instability turned into near-continuous chaos. In less than 50 years, more than 20 emperors ruled, many for only a few months. Armies rebelled constantly, rival claimants battled across the empire, and Rome's frontiers came under mounting pressure. To grasp the scale of the collapse, it is worth remembering that Augustus alone ruled for 43 years, while the next 20-plus emperors barely matched that combined stability across 2 centuries. During this era, real power often rested not with lawful institutions, but with the Praetorian Guard, the emperor's personal bodyguards, and Rome's internal security force. The Guard became infamous for assassinating emperors, selling the throne to the highest bidder, and elevating generals who served their interests. Many of the rulers of this period were so dependent on military backing that historians label them barracks emperors, chosen by soldiers rather than by any recognized constitutional process. Despite this prolonged crisis, the Roman Empire did not collapse in the 3rd century. Its survival was due largely to the profound unification created by 2 centuries of Romanization. Across the empire, people, Italian and provincial alike, shared language, law, urban life, and cultural identity. Most inhabitants had a vested interest in preserving a system that, despite its turmoil, had delivered long-term stability and prosperity. Out of this chaos emerged a new ruler in 284 CE, Diocletian, who would radically restructure the imperial system and restore order. Rome's internal struggles were compounded by growing external threats. Along the northern frontiers, Germanic peoples intensified their pressure on the empire. These Indo-European groups had originated near the Baltic and gradually migrated south. By the time of Julius Caesar, they had reached the Rhine, where Rome first encountered them in large numbers. Germanic society was organized around clans and warrior bands, with leadership centered on a war leader, or König, surrounded by a loyal retinue bound by honor. Raids, rather than outright invasions, characterized their early attacks, but these incursions increased steadily. Rome sometimes responded by settling Germanic tribes along the frontier as defensive allies, and many of these groups eventually adopted Roman customs and Christianity. In the east, Rome faced an even more formidable rival. For centuries, the Parthian Empire challenged Roman power, inflicting humiliating defeats such as Crassus's disaster at Carrhae in 53 BCE. Around 224 CE, Parthia was replaced by the Sassanid Empire, which aggressively revived Persian strength. The Sassanids posed a sustained and serious threat, forcing Roman emperors to divert scarce troops eastward, troops desperately needed to stabilize the western frontiers. Together, internal fragmentation and external pressure pushed the empire to the brink. Yet Rome endured, transformed rather than destroyed, setting the stage for a new imperial order in the late 3rd century.